Let's focus on the military now, because it's something that also came up during the week, especially in the Senate, where the two senators from Borno State did speak up about, constantly how they have given the military information, or security operatives in general, about, the movement of these girls and where they are. And he's insinuated something along the lines of, whenever he gave information about their location, the next day the people moved, which means that obviously someone in the military kept telling them to move. The infiltration has been, people have kind of insinuated it, but it's looking like it's actually true now.
That's what it looks like. I mean, as Debola alluded to, it's not something that you can prove or claim, but it's the pattern. I'm not even just pattern. Mr. President's words were the Boko Haram members in my government.
Yeah. That's 3 years ago.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
There's another time that I think was Major General Azazi who had mentioned the fact that we know the financiers, and he said this is all political. If we want to arrest them, we can arrest them, shortly after he was removed. So the trend is there for all to see. And you can't have, and which is why a lot of Nigerians find this very, very puzzling. You can't have 200 girls in a forest or a part of a country where people say they've seen them move around, they know where they are, and nothing gets done. As far as we heard, I think last week from people who live in Chibok, they haven't seen any increased military presence. So it's not like something happened in Chibok and the military descended on it and we're trying to find information.
Like the ones in Abuja or the ones in Murtala.
Exactly. So we have that. So it's like that remote part of the world, you get information, but then nothing happens. And then you're then wondering, why doesn't anything happen? And what really is the underlying issue. I mean, so there's a lot of, recently now the military said they're handing over information to the Borno State government to share weekly updates. We haven't heard anything. But also that, not only that, but also the lack of sharing information. This is what's going on. Yes, it is. People keep saying it's security. Do you want them to tell your secrets? No, it happens all over the world. Yes, there is sensitive information, but there's also basic information on this is what we've done, this is what is happening. Even if you had given us the number of the girls, for example, in week 1, at least we'll know there's action. So I think those are the issues that speak to the issue that there are issues within the military, that there is something fundamentally wrong. You hear about soldiers who are disillusioned, who are not being paid properly. You hear about inadequate equipment to fight. So you hear all those things, and there's nothing the government does to counter that makes you trust them, unless in places like Abuja, when everywhere is on lockdown. Every airport is on lockdown for a conference that we shall talk about later, I guess. So it's possible to put things on lockdown.
A friend of mine whose family is in the military actually said, Debuka, think back. In your life, have you ever seen a military man honored who wasn't a general in Nigeria? And it's almost that sort of, there's almost no motivation anymore for the military. And someone actually alluded to the fact that Boko Haram is more lucrative now for them. So why not sell out?
Because I listened to you and I just remember 2010. When we went to tear down the walls of the National Assembly, demanding for the rule of law to be kept, and demanding that the Vice President be made acting President so we can have leadership in this country. And that day, all of us, young professionals, actors, musicians, influencers, and we gathered at the National Assembly. At that time, there were killings in Jos. Children were dying, families were being vanished, women were crying. And I saw the report, and we would see one mobile police, one soldier, it was just very sparse. But when you got to the National Assembly to speak to the electives that we put there to come and engage them, we young professionals without guns, without knives, without violence, I saw armor tanks. I saw military that I had never seen in my life. I saw men covered in those leaves to attack us, ordinary citizens, when they were needed in Jos. And look at the same thing. They are needed in Sambisa, but where are they now? They're in Abuja and at MMA.
We're going to come to the World Economic Forum, of course, and of course what happened there. But let's talk about the protests that kind of came up this week, and of course the police involvement, which sort of, the protest in Abuja was almost stopped. I'm sorry, in Lagos, with police, shots were fired in the air, tear gas was fired, and all of that. This protest now, it started online and has gone on the streets. What are we trying to achieve here now?
Fantastic. I think attention, and because as we said earlier, a lot of these issues die over time. But I think this one has so galvanized the nation that the idea is to keep it on the front burner until something happens. So the hashtag started online. On Wednesday was the first protest in Abuja. Raining. Even the commissioner of police had to come. As you rightly said, there was such a heavy presence of police for women protesting to the National Assembly. In rain, there was a water tank. In rain, there was a water tank to disperse it, which just didn't make any sense. So Wednesday started in Abuja, and Abuja has continued every day. So every day at 3 p.m. they continue to meet at the Unity Fountain, and the sit-ins will continue until the girls are found. And then since then, on Thursday was actually a previous protest planned by Shehu Kuti. but we added on the Bring Back Our Girls campaign to it. The police told us we needed a permit, told us we couldn't protest, needed to get out of there. We're like, we're citizens, we have a right to protest. They finally did allow us to, and the letter was delivered to Fashola. But over the last 3 days, we've had protests in probably 10 cities of the world: New York, DC, Paris, Toronto, Atlanta. And a lot of them are being led by non-Nigerians who are just really outraged that, look, how can 200 girls be missing in their country and nobody has any information and nobody's saying anything? Monday, we're back in Lagos again, 9 a.m. At Allen Roundabout to continue the call that we have to bring back our girls.
Yeah. Do you think that this protest have, as short as it has happened so far, it looks like it's starting to yield results? I mean, interestingly, the First Lady spoke up and set up how committee these things from. It's laughable, but I mean, everybody's waking up.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you know, that is the essence of this. You see, when people begin to talk, and when there is so much pressure, especially in a nation where people usually do not challenge institutions, and so the moment that they realize that this particular issue is important to you, you know, then they begin to pay attention. And I'm shocked, you know, to hear that, you know, our dear First Lady, because I would think, you know, that she would be in front of this issue. And you know, as cheesy, you know, as vain as this might sound, these are moments that actually leaders can shine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even for the sake of the fact that I just want to shine. I just want to do good PR.
Yeah.
These are moments not to go and stay by somebody in your hospital and give them envelopes and take some picture. That's not it. These are moments where you can make words. You can just say things that will show that indeed you are in charge. You know, so the pressure is continuing. The international community has done fantastic, you know, support for the project. I mean, Chris Brown is tweeting from.
Don't laugh at Chris Brown.
Sorry. No, thank you. Actually, we should thank him. You know, but it's not important that he's tweeting from the cell. You know, Mary J. Blige is tweeting. You know, someone said yesterday that Jay-Z, Tyra Diggs, Tyra Banks are actually interested in doing something on this issue. You know, Tom Clancy is on it, you know, every day I say things by him. Every day I'm getting emails from one journalist from France 247, Egypt, something, you know, papers I've never heard in my life, just trying to get information, trying to know what is happening. That international spotlight then puts a responsibility on the leadership of the country to say that this is not like the every week something new happens. This one, and you know, you would ask and say, but why this one? There was a bomb after this. Why not chase that? Because it's girls, as far as you're concerned, are alive.
Yeah.
The people who've been bombed are dead. The new bombing, they're dead. But these ones who we hope are alive, and let's do our best to ensure that they do not die like the many others.
Yeah.
That was very chilling when you said they're dead there, because it brought up the point that, you know, bombings have happened since then. There's been one more in Nyanya. There's been a couple in University of Maiduguri.
Yep.
I think there were 10 or something in a day there. And it almost looks like, you know, these bombings have now become secondary. And are we that nation now where bombs have become a part of our normalcy?
It seems like it. Do you want to say?
I mean, you know, I just never thought in my life that I would put on my TV, you know, I'll be sitting anywhere in the world, you know, and I put on my TV, and apart from watching Iran and watching Iraq, I'll be watching Nigeria. I just never thought of it in my life. You know, I never imagined it, you know. So for us to get to this point, well, that's the reality, and it's unfortunate. And you know, for the first time yesterday, I had chills in my body because I knew someone who was in the bomb. It had never happened. You've been hearing these things. You know, the bombing had been happening. You know, but yesterday I was talking to my brother, a very good friend of mine, and he said, "Oh, did you know Daddy was in the bomb?" And I was shocked. And he almost died because they went to the first hospital, and the guys from the last set were still in the hospital, so there was no space. They went to the second hospital, they went to the third hospital because he knew someone. Because he knew someone, we shouldn't be. That was how he managed to get a bed, and he's managing to recuperate now. And so yes, we are that nation now.
And also there's a disconnect. I think one of the things that's also particular about the girls that people haven't lost focus is that it's resonated across the country.
Yes.
So it's not just, oh, it's in the north, oh, it's Abuja.
This is definitely different.
Exactly. So there's a sense that the bombs, as you said, is just there. It's somewhere far away. And I think therefore it's then important that hopefully focusing on the girls, not only in terms of getting the girls back safe, but hopefully that would help solve some of the address some of the fundamental issues within our security services.
We're still going to come back to the girls now. We'll talk about, you know, hopefully getting them back and all of the reports about them getting married and all of that. But I want to talk about WEF now, because you mentioned, we talked about Nyanya and, you know, the bombings. Now, the World Economic Forum is going to be holding from the 7th to the 9th. Yes. And we hear public holidays have been declared in Abuja for that period, so that the streets are free and all of that. Do you think it was morally right, you know, for this to continue to go on, seeing as, you know, the country is in mourning, receiving visitors at this time is definitely a priority. But then again, there's the other side of the story where, this takes 2 years to plan. Nigeria got the hosting rights in 2012. The World Economic Forum is not the Nigerian Economic Summit where you can just shift dates and all of these things are planned. There's a calendar for that. So you can also make a case for the government trying to make it hold. But doing that at the expense of everybody else, we hear 6,000 military personnel being deployed in Abuja.
I think you're right, it does take 2 years to plan. But I really would ask, is there any conversation that's going to happen over those 3 days that will fundamentally change economies in Africa? That cannot happen. I mean, yes, it's an economic summit for all intents and purposes. For all intents and purposes, it's a talk shop. People will talk, you discuss, you network. So is there anything fundamental over those 3 days that would happen that would be groundbreaking for solving fundamental issues within the continent? I think the answer is no. And that for me is the reason why I think it's a major distraction for the Nigerian government at this time. And the critical issues that I want us to look at. When Nyanya went off on Monday, the first statement issued by the coordinating minister of the economy was about WEF. She made no mention of the Nyanya bomb blast in terms of the victims, but she made it in context of the fact that WEF is still going to go on, we're assuring you of your security. The last statement that was sent out that I got a copy of assured visitors that Abuja was calm and the WEF was going to go on. Now we're declaring a public holiday, shutting down a city for 3 days to have a talk shop, and we're saying the city is calm and people should come. Now, some panels have been cancelled, some people have reduced their delegations, but for a government to think at this time, this is the most fundamental thing we want to talk about, this is what we want to deploy security services. In Lagos, airport is on shutdown, Abuja airport is on shutdown, security agencies all over the street, everybody will be on hyper alert. If you talk too long in groups of 5, they might think you're planning something.
If your breaks down anyway, it's a problem.
So is that really, and that's really the issue, it is a distraction. Maybe it could have been moved to Lagos, I don't know. Maybe it could have moved, I think that's Lagos probably the only city that could accommodate it if we really wanted to do it in Nigeria. But the focus of the federal government on WEF, and that being the tone of their concern in their public communication, for me is worrisome. Adebola made the point earlier, Mr. President is just to address the nation in 20 days about this, but he has spoken about WEF. We have written correspondence and assured delegates that WEF, everybody is safe. So there's a clear sign that WEF is more important than the life of Nigerians, and that's what I have a problem with.
We're going to take a very quick break now. When we'll come back, we're going to continue with the discussion on the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. Please do stay with us.